So as I promised, Delano is here with the business news, and he's starting out here in France. Those strikes are taking place, Delano.
That's right, Stuart. Good morning to you. Public sector workers are taking to the streets across the country. Workers at hospitals, schools and flight controllers will be walking off the job. They're demonstrating over a freeze in pay. Around 20% of flights are expected to be impacted this Tuesday. Air France says its long-haul services will go undisrupted, but the airline can't rule out last-minute delays and cancellations.
What we hope is that the government will move on this and take into account that those of us who work and pay taxes and VAT and are constantly hit by taxes, we are being forced onto the streets to change things.
Voilà, on est obligé de bouger, d'être dans la rue pour pouvoir que ça bouge.
Now, as you just heard from that soundbite, taxi drivers also across France are staging a protest of their own. They want the government to impose stricter regulations on private car hire services. From 6 a.m. local time, taxis have blocked access to Paris's main airports. Now, faced with competition from the likes of Uber, they allege their business has shrunk 20 to 30%. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by France 24's Jonathan Walsh, who is at Porte Maillot, one of the main entrances to Paris. Jonathan, good morning to you. Now, last year, the government buckled under pressure from taxi unions and suspended the Uber Pop service. What exactly do taxi drivers want now?
Well, Delano, they're protesting against what they call unfair and uncontrolled competition. Namely the spread of companies and web applications using non-professional drivers. As you said, Uber Pop was banned recently, but other applications and other small companies are spreading and still exist. Also, as you know, traditional taxi drivers in France have to buy a very expensive license. They have to pay up to 300 or 350,000 euros for that license, which allows them to pick up clients anywhere on the street, to use bus lanes, for example, which is something that other chauffeured taxis cannot do. But they're saying that the French government is not enforcing the law that forces chauffeured taxis to respect the restrictions I've just mentioned. So that's why they're protesting today.
Jonathan, if they have a problem with the technology and these applications, do they realize that each time they block access to Paris's airports and, you know, these protests turn violent? They don't always turn violent, but last year we did see them turn violent. That the image of France is tarnished. I mean, there's a better way to do it if they want to change the way the government sort of deregulates the industry, right?
Well, their feeling is that they did try negotiation before. And as I mentioned, a new law has been voted, the Loi Thévenoud, which should force chauffeured taxis and non-professional drivers to respect that law, which is not the case for the moment. So their feeling is that the time for negotiation is over and that they have to take those very strong decisions and strong measures to make the government move and to make the government enforce the law. Measures such as blocking the airports or blocking the access to Paris at Porte Maillot, where I'm standing right now.
Jonathan Walsh, thank you very much for that update from Porte Maillot. Stuart, I don't know if you could see there on those images, but we did have Spanish flags because apparently taxi drivers from Spain have come to Paris to lend their support to this strike that's happening today.
OK, we will, of course, continue to follow that story during the day for you here on France 24. Another big business story, a world business story, really, that's been going on for several weeks, but it's back in the news once again, the markets, Delano.
That's right, Stuart. It's a bloodbath happening in Asia at this point in time. Stocks are being hammered this session, cuts of over 6%, as you can see there on your screens, on the Shanghai Composite. The Nikkei in Japan and the Hang Seng over in Hong Kong also down considerably at this hour. The declines come as oil prices retreat below $30 a barrel once again. Brent crude currently down over 3%. There you can see on your screens there at around $29.58 a barrel. This comes as Iraq is pumping more oil and worries of an oversupply once again return to the markets. Now, the French car maker Peugeot Citroën's upscale brand of cars DS have opened their first store in the Iranian capital. For the moment, they're selling two different models at around $57,000 apiece. They hope to sell 1,000 cars in the first year, all imported from here in France, although eventually they would like to produce the vehicles locally. Our correspondent in Tehran was at the grand opening and spoke to the Iranian group that's partnering with DS.
Today is a very exciting day for us and also for the automotive industry in Iran. We think now the sanctions are being lifted and there's going to be more competitions and customers will be more demanding in all sectors. Because of that, we are trying to develop DS brand according to the standards of the company internationally. So the DS showroom that you see today here is exactly according to the standards of DS store all around the world.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani, meanwhile, is currently in Italy in his first visit since Western sanctions were lifted nearly 2 weeks ago. He will also be in France on Wednesday. Now, during the visit, he's expected to negotiate deals for more than 100 Airbus aircrafts to upgrade his country's aging fleet. And finally, McDonald's reported better than expected fourth quarter profits and revenue. The fast food chain says its new all-day breakfast menu helped boost U.S. sales by 5.7%. Sales in high-growth markets, which include Russia and China, rose 3%. Chief Executive Stephen Easterbrook, who took helm of the company last year, is trying to revamp the company's image after years of declining market share. That's the business news for you now. Stuart, I'll be back in just under an hour with more.
Good. Thank you very much, Delano. Yeah, more on those taxi driver strikes and, of course, the latest markets from Delano in an hour.